Good morning, fifth grade. So today I'm going to be talking about tone and mood. Miss Yourselves class, we did do something similar last Friday. So if you weren't there, you're definitely going to watch this video, but you might also want to watch it just for a nice refresher. So tone and mood are the way emotions are expressed. Tone is where you look at how the author is feeling. What did the writer or the speaker, what is their emotion? Mood then is what is the reader's emotion. So I'm going to show you some notes that I had taken previously to kind of outline this a little bit better for you guys. And then we're going to work with it as I read Summer 1934. I'm going to read a section of that. So, tone versus mood. If you look on my little notepad right here, I'm going to flip it. Tone in the purple is the author's attitude towards the subject. So you're looking at what do they feel? What is their emotion? What are they presenting? So authors like J.K. Rowling or Jeff Kinney. A text tone can be comical, which is a way of doing a positive tone, a hostile tone, which is very negative, or impartial. So examples of other types of tone you could attribute to a writing: amused, playful, suspicious, cheerful, sinister, tense, formal, informal, sad, angry, ironic, matter of fact, gloomy, and witty. Mood then is where you're looking at how you feel, how the reader feels when they're reading or listening to a specific text or speech. So you could be optimistic, you could be confused, you could be all of these things in dark pink, reddish color. Happy, lonely, grateful, suspenseful, romantic, etc. Pretty much anything that you could feel. How do you feel as the reader reading that specific text? So today when I'm reading, we're going to focus specifically on mood, and we're going to look at how the poems that we're about to read affect your mood. How do you, as the reader, feel about these poems? So with that, we're going to draw a couple sketch notes after I read a couple of the poems. I'm starting with the section Summer 1934. So if you want to go ahead and turn to that, I'm going to be coming back to this. Don't ignore that right now. Okay. So, Summer 1934. This section gets pretty intense, so just be prepared for that. Hope in a drizzle. Quarter inch of rain is nothing to complain about. It'll help the plants above ground and start the new seeds growing. That quarter inch of rain did wonders for Ma, too, who is ripe as a melon these days. She has nothing to say to anyone except how she aches for rain. At breakfast, at dinner, all day, all night, she aches for rain. Today, she stood out in the drizzle, hidden from the road and from Daddy, and she thought from me. But I could see her from the barn. She was bare as a pear, raindrops sliding down her skin, leaving traces of mud on her face and her long back, trickling dark and light paths, slow tracks of wet dust down the bulge of her belly. My dazzling Ma, round and ripe and striped like a melon. July 1934. Dion quintuplets. While the dust blew down our road, against our house, across our fields, up in Canada, a lady named Ilzier Dion gave birth to 5 baby girls, all at once. I looked at Ma, so pregnant with one baby. Can you imagine 5? I said. Ma lowered herself into a chair, tears dropping on her tight, stretched belly. She wept just to think of it. July 1934. So I think what's interesting about this one is, remember, her mom has lost a lot of babies. So is her mom weeping because she can't imagine being pregnant with 5? Or is she weeping because she sort of is sad that she's not, if that makes sense. Is she sad that she didn't have the opportunity to have a whole bunch of babies? Wild boy of the road. A boy came by the house today. He asked for food. He couldn't pay anything, but Ma set him down and gave him biscuits and milk. He offered to work for his meal. Ma sent him out to see Daddy. The boy and Daddy came back late in the afternoon. The boy walked 2 steps behind in Daddy's dust. He wasn't more than 16, thin as a fence rail.
Sorry.
Mr. Ryan is playing video games. Just ignore that. He wasn't more than 16, thin as a fence rail. I wondered what Livy Killian's brother looked like now. I wondered about Livy herself. Daddy asked if the boy wanted a bath, a haircut, a change of clothes before he moved on. The boy nodded. I never heard him say more than, "Yes, sir," or "No, sir," or "Much obliged." We watched him walk away down the road in a pair of Daddy's mended overalls, his legs like willow limbs, his arms like reeds. Ma rested her hands on her heavy stomach. Daddy rested his chin on the top of my head. "His mother's worrying about him," Ma said. "His mother is wishing her boy would come home." Lots of mothers wishing that these days, while their sons walk to California where the rain comes and the color green doesn't seem like such a miracle. And hope rises daily like sap in a stem. And I think someday I'm going to walk there too, through New Mexico and Arizona and Nevada. Someday I'll leave behind the wind and the dust and walk my way west and make myself to home in that distant place of green vines and promise. July 1934. So right here is where I want you to probably pause this video and go ahead and do a sketch notes about the mood that you have listening to that poem specifically. How did that make you feel? And if you're like, oh, I think I'd like to read it again, you can get it in the PDF that I attached a couple assignments ago. It's called Wild Boy of the Road. So I just want you to pause the video and do a quick little sketch notes. So for me, when I did this was my sketch note. My mood was Billy Joe is really kind of sad and dreaming of this green place where rain falls and things grow. And she's watching the very skinny boy walk off to California, and she's sad and she's missing him. So that made me feel sad, but at the same time, part of it is hopeful because she's like, oh, one day I'm going to do that and I'm going to go west and that'll be great. So that was my interpretation. Okay. So, next poem. The Accident. I got burned. Bad. Daddy put a pail of kerosene next to the stove. Pause. Kerosene is oil and it's highly flammable, and the only way to put out an oil or grease fire is to deprive it of oxygen. So snuffing it out with a blanket, putting a lid over a pot, something like that. You can't throw water on it, it'll just make it worse. Information. Starting again. The accident. I got burned. Bad. Daddy put a pail of kerosene next to the stove, and Ma, fixing breakfast, thinking the pail was filled with water, lifted it to make Daddy's coffee. Poured it. But instead of making coffee, Ma made a rope of fire. It rose up from the stove to the pail, and the kerosene burst into flames. Ma ran across the kitchen, out the porch door, screaming for Daddy. I tore after her. Then, thinking of the burning pail left behind in the bone-dry kitchen, I flew back and grabbed it, throwing it out the door. I didn't know Ma was coming back. The flaming oil splashed onto her apron, and Suddenly Ma was a column of fire. I pushed her to the ground, desperate to save her, desperate to save the baby. I tried beating out the flames with my hands. I did the best I could, but it was no good. Ma got burned bad. July 1934. Burns. At first, I felt no pain, only heat. I thought I might be swallowed by the heat, like the witch in Hansel and Gretel, and nothing would be left of me. Someone brought Doc Price. He tended Ma first, then came to me. The doctor cut away the skin on my hands. It hung in crusted strips. He cut my skin away with scissors, then poked my hands with pins to see what I could feel. He bathed my burns in antiseptic. Only then the pain came. July 1934. Nightmare. I'm awake now, still shaking from my dream. I was coming home through a howling dust storm. My lowered face was scrubbed raw by dirt and wind. Grit scratched my eyes. I crunched between my teeth. Sand chafed inside my clothes against my skin. Dust crept inside my ears, up my nose, down my throat. I shuddered, nasty with dust. In the house, dust blew through the cracks in the walls. It covered the floorboards and heaped against the doors. It floated in the air everywhere. I didn't care about anyone, anything, only the piano. I searched for it, found it under a mound of dust. I was angry at Ma for letting in the dust. I cleaned off the keys, but when I played, a tortured sound came from the piano. Like someone shrieking. I hit the keys with my fists and the piano broke into 100 pieces. Daddy called to me. He asked me to bring water. Ma was thirsty. I brought a pail of fire and Ma drank it. She had given birth to a baby of flames. The baby burned at her side. I ran away to the Eaton's farm. The house had been tractored out, tipped off its foundation. No one could live there. Everywhere I looked were dunes of rippled dust. The wind roared like fire. The door to the house hung open, and there was dust inside, several feet deep. And there was a piano. The bench was gone, right through the floor. The piano leaned toward me. I stood and played. The relief I felt to hear the sound of music after the sound of the piano at home. I dragged the Eaton's piano through the dust to our house, but when I got there, I couldn't play. I had swollen lumps for hands. They dripped a sickly pus. They swung stupidly from my wrists. They stung with pain. When I woke up, the part about my hands was real. July 1934. A tent of pain. Daddy has made a tent out of the sheet over Ma, so nothing will touch her skin. What skin she has left. I can't look at her. I can't recognize her. She smells like scorched meat. Her body groaning there. It looks nothing like my Ma. It doesn't even have a face. Daddy brings her water and drips it inside the slit of her mouth by squeezing a cloth. She can't open her eyes. She cries out when the baby moves inside her. Otherwise, she moans day and night. I wish the dust would plug my ears so I couldn't hear her. July 1934. Drinking. Daddy found the money Ma kept squirreled in the kitchen under the threshold. It wasn't very much, but it was enough for him to get good and drunk. He went out last night while Mom moaned and begged for water. He drank up the emergency money until it was gone. I tried to help her. I couldn't aim the dripping cloth into her mouth. I couldn't squeeze. It hurt the blisters on my hands to try. I only made it worse for Ma. She cried for the pain of the water running into her sores. She cried for the water that would not soothe her throat and quench her thirst. And the whole time my father was in Gaiman drinking. July 1934. Devoured. Doc sent me outside to get water. The day was so hot. The house was so hot. As I came out the door, I saw the cloud descending. It whirred like 1,000 engines. It shifted shape as it came, settling first over Daddy's wheat. Grasshoppers. So the cloud that she saw descending was a swarm of grasshoppers so large that it looked like a giant cloud. Grasshoppers eating tassels, leaves, stalks, then coming closer to the house, eating Ma's garden, the fence post, the laundry on the line, and then the grasshoppers came right over me, descending on Ma's apple trees. I climbed into the trees, opening scabs on my tender hands, grasshoppers clinging to me. I tried beating them away, but the grasshoppers ate every leaf. They ate every piece of fruit. Nothing left but a couple apple cores hanging from Ma's trees. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't bring myself to say her apples were gone. I never had a chance. Ma died that day, giving birth to my brother, August 1934. Okay, so right here I want you to pause the video again and draw sketch notes about your mood after those poems about the accident and the tent of pain and the grasshoppers. What did it make you feel? For me, when I drew my sketch notes about this, this is what I decided to draw. Because I think these poems are really devastating. They make me feel really sad. And I think that's the point. Like, there's nothing positive happening in their life. Like, even this baby that was supposed to come and bring, you know, the little bit of joy is here, but her mom's not anymore, and it came because of a tragedy. So it's a really sad part in the story. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for you today with mood. I'm going to post another video very soon, and we'll finish reading Summer 1934. And I think I'm going to put more sketch notes for vocabulary up for Autumn 1934. So be looking for that. And I hope you guys are all handling your social distancing well. I know I am. Talk to you soon. Bye.